rich men north of Richmond, Lord knows they all just wanna have total control. Living in
That is such a valuable piece of advice there.
These are the sorts of things that we should talk about right in the first 5 minutes of the podcast.
Started giving people free quotes.
In sunshine and rainbows, it is
Definitely a thing for just being a solo
That
operator.
change in mindset makes a massive difference.
Welcome to Aussie Lawn Stars.
Welcome back, Haydn. How you doing?
Yeah, good, thanks.
So, I want to have a look at your business in a little bit finer detail now. So, for people tuning in, this will be the second run through with you. We've given them an introduction, but you joined up with the Fox franchise and you did that after deliberation. So, when you started, did you have an idea of how you wanted to build your business? Did you want to focus on going hard, filling up your schedule full time, or were you wanting to balance that life work with a part-time schedule?
No, I definitely wanted to give it everything to start with in terms of, build up as quickly as possible and give it full time. And that, for sure. But that's taken time. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think this early on with you starting partway through a season, that's not an issue. I think you've still got the coming season to really prove that through. Leo is your franchisor. He would have been helping you and directing you to try and make sure you identify the right kinds of jobs and fill your schedule as quickly as possible. Have you looked at the types of jobs you want to target specifically, or is at the moment just fill your schedule up with whatever?
Well, that's been a real learning curve there, and I'm certainly not in the position where it's can turn down any sort of work, obviously, starting up. But it's, like you say, it's finding out where the direction you want to go in. And, I definitely like to target more of the bigger properties and that sort of work. But getting your name out there and getting known's a lot. It takes time as well, and also having the right equipment to do it. That's been a bit of a learning curve as well. So yeah.
So that's something we want to spend a bit more time on too, talking about equipment and the types of equipment you use. But I'm guessing if I came to you and said, "Hey, I need gutters cleaning," you'd be like, "Yeah, sure, can do that." And if I come and said, "Can you do a garden cleanup?" Sure, no problem.
Yeah, that's something I've done a little bit of, and I've also got a pressure washer as well. Haven't had a lot of work with that, but done a few. Just another option there.
I find having a pressure washer is one of those things. It's good to have it, but you don't get regular, consistent work for that unless you specifically try and target that work. And because your main work is lawn mowing, it's not necessarily your primary target.
That's right. That's exactly right. And it's just getting all those jobs coming in and offering and the gutter cleans and just being able to do anything like that. And the garden cleanups and that have kept me going through winter. They've been a big help. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. They are bread and butter at winter time, aren't they?
That's right. And we've had a couple of weeks ago where it was getting really cold. It was down to the -3 and that sort of thing, where, obviously the lawns are not growing at all. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's a little bit too chilly, really.
That's it. So, and it's just learning as you go as well too. That's a huge part of it, and probably the most something I've struggled with is just quoting and just knowing how long something's going to take you. That's because I think that just takes time.
It does. It definitely does take time to get used to that process. You hear people on LMCA asking that question all the time: how much should I quote for a job?
Yeah.
I think I want to get into the numbers side of things a whole lot more, but that's something where I look at it, and I encourage people to look at how much it's worth for them to be in business. So how much do you need to turn over for a year? Then break that down into monthly amounts and weekly amounts and daily amounts. And if you stay focused on the daily amount that you need to turn over, then it's fairly easy for you to start quoting a job and go, okay, if a job is going to take me half a day or a quarter of a day or a whole day, that gives me a rough price point to aim for.
That's exactly it. But it's yeah, and I think like they tell you too, when you're quoting the leads and that sort of thing, it's better to work within the customer's budget and ask them what their budget is, and it's no good. They say it's not good winning every quote, because then your prices are probably too cheap. But in saying that, it's a fine line between, you don't want to be pricing yourself out of jobs and that sort of thing as well in the startup phase.
That's right. So it's a delicate balance when you're typically you try and overquote rather than underquote, but when you need to fill your schedule up, then you could be very wary about overquoting.
That's exactly it.
And I guess the other thing I see there is filtering out people who aren't really your customers. So you get somebody who wants a $100 lawn done for $25. And can you do it cheaper? Can you do it cheaper? Don't worry about the edges. Just give me a quick cut and run.
Yeah.
And people
that's right.
And it's okay, that's not really my customer. Or, if you're really desperate, I'll do a cut and run, but I'm going to hide my van around the back and not tell anyone that I'm here.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of people these days I see too, they go on their local Facebook groups and they'll tell you what it's going to cost you to do the job, and it's, well, okay.
It's interesting that, isn't it? Because a lot of people look at what you're worth as a labour rate. They're not willing to consider that you've got business costs.
That's exactly right. And you have to think it's not even, some of these jobs, it's not even worth the risk of damaging your machines these days, damaging your equipment.
Yeah, that's it. It's I've found too many times in the 14 years I've been working that I've done damage to my equipment and then thought afterwards in hindsight, oh man, that was not worth the job.
Yeah.
And sometimes at the second you hear the crunch and you're like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
That wasn't worth it.
Yeah, that's it. That's for sure.
Yeah. So in terms of looking at the types of jobs that you're taking on, we've sort of covered that in terms of the pursuit of a lot of residential work in those areas. Have you given a lot of thought to chasing commercial work, or is that something where you'll look at it when people ask for it and deal with it?
That's something I'd definitely love to target, but it's sort of, that's a bit of that's something I need to improve on, whether that's going and knocking on their doors and just getting your face out there. I'm not sure, but and I think, more just doing good quality work will hopefully get my name out there a bit more and that sort of thing.
Yeah, it definitely works. The word of mouth as you build your reputation makes a massive difference on these, and particularly with commercial work. Once you've got a commercial job, then A lot of people have been asking about which brand of battery tool to buy, and I don't like to recommend one brand of battery for everyone or every situation. Dealer support and access to parts and service all play a big role in that decision. Some brands have better tools for specific needs or each product category. I've been using a variety of brands, and I endeavour to provide unbiased interviews on Aussie Lawn Stars with as many of those product brands as possible. I reached out to Ego Power Plus through the podcast because of how Barry supports the industry and Ego owners. Barry has impressed me with his loyalty to customers in providing support and listening to the needs of the industry, which has resulted in a full lineup of new commercial tools landing in Australia over the last 12 months that has positioned Ego as a leader in the commercial tool space for outdoor power equipment. Visit egopowerplus.com.au to see if they have the tools you need today. they have nothing to gauge that on unless you are cheaper, half the price of the person who's already doing it for them.
Yeah, that's right. That's it. And also another one I've sort of found is that they, like over the winter period, there'll be two or three. A lot of the people will get two or three different quotes, and they'll just go with the cheapest or the first person that's contacted them. And
Yeah.
I always try and contact somebody as quick as I can, but sometimes you're a minute or two late, and that's the luck of the draw. So
yeah. So did Fox run through numbers with you in terms of how to quote a job, what prices to chase?
yeah, yes, I did a fair bit of that with them, and training with another franchise in Toowoomba. Yeah, he was really good and learned a lot off him. But that's something that I think you've got to make your own mistakes there as well. You can.
Yeah. And
that's a bit of a guide, but
I try and give people that information on my podcast so that they don't have to make their own mistakes as much and they get it right quicker. So I'm going to ask you, and you can say none of your business, Gary, not talking to you about it, but let's talk about those numbers. So in terms of either what you are currently earning or what you've been told you should be aiming for, have you looked at job rates or hourly rates or day rates?
Yeah. So that one's like I know I need to be at least up around the $100 mark an hour.
Hourly rate, yeah.
Yeah, but saying that, most of my jobs, I'm not getting that at the moment. That's for sure.
Yeah.
But when I'll charge out some on an hourly rate, I'll at least aim for that. Yeah.
Yeah. So what did you say is your average that you're pulling in at the moment?
Probably, I wouldn't charge anything less than $70 to $80 mark. Yeah.
And that's still pretty decent, really. And I think if you look across Australia, you find there's a couple of factors that come into this. So if you're in a built-up city environment, it's a whole lot easier to charge out at $100, $150 per hour for your jobs. And if you're in
that's right.
In a rural or a semi-rural area, so when you're on a place like Dalby and Toowoomba, you're not in Brisbane or the Gold Coast, and people are looking for better value.
Yeah, and that's right. And, and some people it's like you've just swore at them when you say $70, let alone and it's so, but
I guess that's saying that, sorry, you're not my customer.
Yeah, I know. And that's what you'd like to do, certainly, but it's you've got to put in the groundwork. I think that's the important part.
There's two things there that come in, and I'll say this, and you can tell me how this looks for you, because I'm trying to tell your story more than my own. If somebody said you're only worth $25 an hour because that's what I can pay the neighbour to come over and mow my lawn, you're probably going to say, yeah, I'm not getting out of bed for that, right?
Yeah.
But if you tell them $70 an hour and they laugh at you and say, yeah, right, you're not going down to $25 an hour, but you might go, oh, I can move a little bit. And if you're aiming for $100 an hour and you're hitting $70 to $80 an hour, then that's still pretty good.
Yeah.
What the other factor that comes in there is in terms of comparing it to a day rate. And the reason I say this, and I'm happy to have this discussion with anybody who will listen, if you do $80 an hour and you don't have to move for the whole day, you can do an $800 day in one place.
Yeah, that's right. And there's lots of other variables with it as well.
If you say you're doing $150 an hour, but you have to move in between your jobs and you've got to travel 15, 20 minutes in between jobs, you'll struggle to do a $500 or $600 day.
Yeah. And that's it. And it's no good if you're just getting that 1 or 2 days a week,
Yeah, so I tell people to keep that in mind, right? If you've got route density or you've got a large job where you spend the whole day in one place, then your hourly rate is not really relevant to somebody who's doing the opposite.
Yeah.
So if you compare the day rate, okay, what's your target for a whole day? And that'd be interesting to know. Do you have a day target that you aim for?
Oh, well, I think, around the 600 mark it'd be ideal. Yeah.
Yeah, and I see a lot of people are aiming for around that 500 to 600 a day at the moment.
Yeah. Yeah. If I can get to that consistently, I'll be very happy, and that's the goal for summer. Yeah. And I don't think that's being too unrealistic as well. That's.
Look, I'd like to talk to you in about 2 to 5 years and see you doing $800 to $1,000 a day. I think it's quite achievable.
Yeah. Yeah.
Certainly in your area, achievable. But you've got, like I said, at least your first winter is almost over. You've got at least another winter to really get used to those seasonal adjustments and the fact that you need to not build up too much work in winter because summer's going to be too busy. And when it's what does Goldie look like in the middle of summer? Is it hitting 40 degrees regularly? And
oh yeah, it gets hot out here. It's a different sort of heat to what I was used to on the Gold Coast.
A bit drier.
Yeah, very much. Got that dry heat and no breeze. You don't get that cool breeze.
Yeah. So you won't get the hot, humid, making you sweat and can't stop sweating and everything, but you will get the heat, definitely.
Yeah.
The heat you can't escape.
Yeah, that's it. And there's not a lot of shade out here. There's not a lot of trees and that sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. So in terms of your sticking to this numbers game at the moment, your goals are in front of you. You hope by the end of this next season that you're starting to see things moving in that right direction, around that $500 to $600 a day, consistently 5 days a week.
Yeah, for sure. That's a goal, and that'll set me up a lot better for the winter period as well.
Yeah, for sure. So have you thought about the rate that you're growing at the moment? You might have to put on an employee to get through summer?
Well, I sort of haven't been even close to that at this stage, but that's something. Yeah, that's something that would be good. And I've got a couple of kids that I wouldn't mind getting them help me out there and pay them a bit of pocket money and show them some skills. That I think
you've got 4 kids, right? So how old's your oldest?
My daughter's 13.
Yeah.
So she's already started work here for a local shopping food works, and so she's keen. So that'd be good. And I worked for my old man, and he was a pretty terrible boss. So I'd hopefully like to show them a bit better.
Yep. Well, my youngest is 15, and I've had her working with me a few times. So it's nice getting the kids to work with you. Yeah,
that's it. And I think it'd be nice, and get them just show them how to operate a bit of machinery and that sort of thing, and just something that they're always, maybe not always going to need to mow lawns, but just some basic skills. And a bit of work ethic. I think that's important. That's one thing I did learn from my father, was you have to work for things in life. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's good to get the kids working with you where you can actually show them that and demonstrate it with being on the tool. Basically, it's completely different to working in a shop retail environment or something like that.
That's right. And and lead by example. And look, I've worked for plenty of bad bosses. I've hopefully learned about a little bit anyway about leadership. Yeah,
that's it. Hopefully you pick up the good lessons. And
that's right. But I mean, saying that, I know it's not easy having employees, and that's got its own challenges and that sort of thing. But I think it can be done. Look, I think that's an interesting one.
Yeah, and there's nothing like experience to get you used to that idea. So, yeah, like I said, it'd be really interesting to talk to you in a couple of years' time to see how you're going with some of the goals that you've got.
Yeah, I did have a potential client ring me up the other day, and they sort of got put off when I said I was just a solo operator, because they had a big aged care facility, and
Yeah.
I said, well, look, if the work's there, I'll definitely take the staff on, So, but
Yeah, and I think that's what they're looking for when they are chasing quotes from lawn mowing, gardening, horticulture contractors is, have you got the capacity to do the work at the moment?
Thank you for listening to Aussie Lawn Stars. Please remember to rate and review the show on the Apple Podcasts app or the player you use. Exciting new shows are released every Monday. Make sure you follow or subscribe to hear the next episode.